for the Orange City Council meeting on the 15th of March 2022. I'd like to now ask from the CEO any apologies or absentees. Thank you.
And we have an apology from the Mayor, Councillor Hamling.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Witter and Councillor Malato.
Show of hands, please.
All carried. Yep. Thank you. All carried. Thank you very much.
Leto with an
Sorry.
Leto, not Maleto.
Mileto. My apologies, Mr. Tony Mileto. Okay. Council's appearance via the Zoom. Councillor Floyd has requested to attend this meeting by Zoom link because of health reasons. Do we need to record our names for and against?
Move in second.
I move in second. Thank you. Councillor McDowell there, and McDonald. I'm really putting on the pressure here, and also Councillor Mallard. Thank you very much.
And we have a vote. Please show of hands.
All agreed? Thank you very much.
Councillor Duffy, are you? Yep. Thank you.
Okay, this meeting of Orange City Council is live stream and recording. This council meeting is by speaking at the meeting, you agreed to be live streamed and recorded. Please ensure that if and when you speak at this council meeting that you ensure you're respectful to others and appropriate language at all times. Orange City Council accepts no liability or defamation or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. A recording will be made for administrational purposes. 1.3, acknowledgement of country. I wish to acknowledge that we are gathering on the amazing country of the Wajju people, acknowledge elders past, present and in future. Also like to acknowledge the other nations that are gathered here tonight. And thank you. 1.4, declaration of conflict of interest. Does any councillor wish to declare any conflict of interest in any matter considering at this meeting?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to declare an interest in item 5.9, a significant non-pecuniary interest, as I know the applicant who is submitting the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. I'll remain in the chamber and not vote on the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. It was a move and shake.
No, you don't need it. Councillor Mallard.
Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, just in relation to item 2.2, the National Federal Election Priorities of the Australian Local Government Association, I'll declare a significant non-pecuniary member of the Management Committee of the Greens New South Wales and a member of the campaign committees coordinating the federal election for Greens New South Wales and the charter for that.
Thank you, Councillor David Mileto. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Council received no speaker registration for this meeting, therefore will be no open forum to this event. At this point in time, I'd really like to acknowledge our New South Wales representative of the Clare area, Mr. Phil Donato. He would like to come forward and speak a few words. Thank you, Mr. Mileto.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Power. And I should just correct the record for those watching. I'm the state member for Orange, not Calais. In case someone or anyone's watching and took issue with that. But look,
Freudian slip, Bill.
Just wanted to clarify that. But look, firstly, can I say welcome and thank you for having me, but welcome to everyone to the council meeting here in Orange. And this is back in 2017 after I was elected. I addressed council back then, Orange City Council, and it was great to see we still have 4 of those councillors present. Evan, Tony, Jeff and Jason, who's had to leave us. But isn't it great to see 8 new faces on the local council? And I think it's a great acknowledgement to see the diversity that we have on our local council. And I think it's very refreshing for local democracy and refreshing for the town, because No doubt, I speak to a lot of people in the town, and a lot of the feedback I hear is that they want to see new people involved, fresh, enthusiastic ideas, and people that truly are representative of the local community. So I think the last election that occurred recently, where you were all elected, and I congratulate you all for your election, really proves that point in terms of the diversity that we're seeing here in the council chambers with this new council. And I'd like to congratulate every single one of you on your election. It's certainly not easy putting yourself up there for election. You're putting yourself out there for criticism, for scrutiny, for accountability, all those things, and for judgment, ultimately judgment by your peers in the local community. And sometimes, politics and running in elections can be grueling, can be tiring, can be very rewarding as well. So good on you all for putting your hand up and having a go, firstly, and congratulations on your election. I'd also like to congratulate, although he's not here, Jason Hamling being elected as a popular elected mayor to Orange City Council, and I know he's been on the council for many, many years. And I wish to acknowledge Jason Hamling on his election, and I wish everyone here all the best for your future in council. I know it's fairly short term, of just over 3 years, but taking into what Mayor Hamling said, I think at the very first council meeting, is just get things done. We want to see things happening for our community, for our town. Let's put the political bullshit aside, and let's get on with getting the job done for our community. So I'll commend him for that, and no doubt look forward to having a good relationship with all councils in my electorate. You're one of four. Orange is one of four councils that make up the Orange State electorate. There's Parkes, Forbes and Cabonne as well. But certainly Orange is the largest city and centre of the electorate, plays a significant part. And I, like no doubt all of us here in this room, really want to see Orange prosper for the future, not only for ourselves, but for our families, for our children as well. And with the position of being an elected member, whether it be local council, state or federal, you take on that a level of responsibility, a responsibility that you are making decisions and being empowered and entrusted by your local fellow community members to make decisions on their behalf. Not an easy job, as many of you will find out, and no doubt those that have been in the council for some time now know. You're not going to please everyone all the time, but my door's always open in terms of being accessible and approachable, and it doesn't matter of what political affiliation you may have or background you may have. I don't really care, to be perfectly frank. I want to see the community prosper, and I've got no problem trying to help everyone in the community. I can't help everyone in the community all the time. I'll certainly try. And yes, we may disagree on things. We mightn't agree on everything. But I think that's healthy for debate in a community, in a civilised community, in a civilised democracy. It's healthy for debate, and it's in the best interests of the local community. I made a few notes, and I'm conscious of the time. I don't want to take up too much time. I think I've been allocated about 10 minutes. But obviously there's a number of projects that have been going on, and the Orange Sporting Project or Sporting Precinct, one of those projects I just want to briefly talk about. That's something I've been very supportive of from the outset, and that's a project I want to see get delivered as soon as possible. I know there's some controversy over the recent times over that, over its location, over trees, over a whole range of issues. I believe that's a project that we need to get done and get completed as soon as possible. I believe it provides enormous economic benefit to our community, our businesses, and provides a wonderful opportunity for our local community in terms of attracting and hosting junior carnivals, premium events, and all those things that bring significant investment into our local community. And this was one of the things I spoke about back in 2017 when I stood at this lectern and addressed this council back then. Was I'd just come back from the Charity Shield game where South Sydney defeated St George on that day, although I saw that St George won the last one. And there was 10,000 people at Glen Willow Stadium. Town was pumping. I remember speaking to the general manager, Mr. Cam, over there at the time, And he said, look, we host 3 or 4 of these fixtures, and it's basically paid the stadium itself, the economic return it brought to the town. I think at the time that was investment that was provided by the federal government during the GFC. I think it was the Labor federal government at the time. Were bringing those economic stimulus packages, and Mudgee Council decided to build that Glen Willow Sporting Precinct. And that's the return on investment on that, and the return to the local community has been significant and overwhelming, and well exceeds what that project costs. Obviously, there's social issues like affordable housing, and I know Francis is very, very keen, and we've spoken in the past about that, and that's something that as a local council, we all face probably almost on a weekly basis, talking to constituents, doing both at a local, state and no doubt federal level, address the housing shortage, to address affordable housing options. I only saw a representation come back from the Minister for Planning, Minister Anthony Roberts, today actually, indicating, and the CEO, Mr Waddell, might correct me here, but I think Orange City Council is receiving $1.4 million for towards that regional housing task force. So there are things happening. I appreciate it's slow. Sometimes the wheels turn slowly in government. It turns slowly but surely. But it's certainly something I'm cognizant of, and I know, Francis, you're very passionate as well. I know that all of us are. Ensuring that those on the margins of our community have a place where they can afford to live. No doubt our children as well, who grow up, want to be able to buy a place and somewhere to live within their means in our town as well. So that's a social issue. Water security is a big one, obviously, as well. We need to look at what we're doing in terms of shoring up water supply and security as the population of the town grows. We want to attract more business to town, in my view, to encourage and promote more jobs. We want to see as many people working as possible in our local community. We want to get people out from the margins, as I said, and get them working, contributing to the local economies. One, was that the bell to say my 10 minutes is up? It wasn't? Some of you might hope so. I won't be too much longer. But look, one of the other projects I just wanted to briefly touch on, it's probably a bit contentious, but I'll mention it anyway, is the mountain bike park up at Mount Canobolas, which is something I've been very vocal in support of that. Once again, I believe that's a project that would provide significant economic returns to our community, and in terms of promoting jobs and investment and tourism and all those things. And I believe, there can be a balance found, and a right balance found in doing that, and taking into account the environment and the historical and cultural aspects of Mount Canobolas, but also ensuring that we have a facility up there that can attract and draw upon tourism, not only across New South Wales, but across Australia and perhaps internationally as well. So that's certainly a project I'm very supportive of, and would like to see advance during the next couple of years. But look, I just wanted to finish on this note. Regardless of who you are, what party you're related to or affiliated to, I don't really give a stuff, okay? I want to see our town prosper. My door's always open to help anyone and everyone. Like I said, we may not agree on everything, but I'll certainly listen to you. And if I don't agree with what you say, I'll tell you I don't agree with what you say. But in also, sometimes we can find some common ground in a lot of the issues and try and find a workable solution. So I'll wrap it up there. I wish you well for your terms in council. Great to see so many new faces. I look forward to the contribution that the new members, new councillors, I should say, bring to debates and to the diversity of the council, but also to the making up of the local community as well. And I'm getting the nod there from Dave Waddell, am I? Wrap it up.
No.
And I wish you well. And like I said, don't hesitate to pick up a phone, ring me up in my office. Only too happy to talk and try and look at addressing the issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
I might go now. Is that all right?
Thank you, Mr.
Stay for the whole meeting. Sorry, mate.
Phil Donato. My sincere apologies for the region that you covered,
all good.
and also your name. So I do apologise for that.
All good.
Your speech is really refreshing to me as a new councillor in relation to the aspects of key things that Orange is looking for: water, water sustainability, water, making sure that we've got enough water, social housing, all of these key things, the sporting precinct, key to Orange City Council. And I suppose speaking to the mayor today and having that conversation is vital that we, as on a local level, but yourself on the state level, do work together hand in hand, arm in arm, to provide what you've already stated, sir, and that is to do the best for Orange. And I think all of us here at this table here and also online are actually really echoing and applauding this very aspect, that we move forward together, we get the best outcomes for Orange, and we, if I may take the privilege, look forward to working with you as our state member, and exciting to what the future holds. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you, councillors. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, could I just step in here for 1 second, just very briefly as well?
Yes, Mr. Ray Floyd. Yes,
Yeah, I just wanted to very quickly say to fellow councillors, now that the state member is gone, that I didn't actually know he was turning up tonight. That was a bit of a surprise for me, and I'm disappointed that I'm not there. But the one thing that I can say, being in the same party as Phil and knowing him for as long as I have, that one thing we can all rest assured of is that his door is always open. He is the type of bloke that will listen to you and take on board what you've got to say. So that's the main thing out of everything, is, putting political differences aside and all this sort of stuff that we talk about. Just go in, talk to the man. He will listen, and that's what I admire the most about him as a man and as a member. So, just everyone, please take that on board. That he will do what he says. His door is always open, and I've found a lot of satisfaction in that over the years as I've known him. So let's use the man, and we'll get some good things done. Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Floyd. He's waving to you now, and he did stop at the door before he departed and listened to every word you said. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on now. The only thing I'm just going to ask, and I need to actually, please bear with me tonight. I'm going through these writings, and we may be here until midnight, but we're going to have fun at the same time.
You're asking if
Okay.
you can have a late item included.
Yeah, we have a late item as per the separate item left on your desk. Will need to be a resolution to deal with a late item.
I'll move that the late item be accepted.
Whitten,
Thank you, Councillor Whitten. Second,
Councillor Evans.
Evans.
Show of hands, please.
Show of hands to
All up.
all carried. Thank you very much. Allowed. Okay. That's 2.42. The Merrill minutes. 2.1 indoor playground.
There being no mayor tonight, I would ask for a mover and a seconder if I could. So Councillor McDonald, Councillor Greenhouse.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Due to the mayor not being here, we do acknowledge that, and our thoughts are with him at this time. Thank you.
Question to the Deputy Mayor. Just a matter of procedure. Why is this a mirror minute and not a motion?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, it's due to the timing. A mayor or minute can go up with pretty much any notice, whereas a motion from a councillor needs a certain 8-day thing. So the mayor has decided to put these minutes up with quite short notice. I know he came back from item 2.2 from the conference and wanted to slip that one in there. Item 2.1, he also wanted to start some debate. And item 2.3, we received the Central New South Wales JO board meeting report quite late, so we've tried to include that tonight to make it current. But the simple reason is the mayor gets to put motions up quickly. Now the Deputy Mayor would like us to deal with item 2.1, indoor playground.
Ask before we speak about it. Is this the same item which Councillor McDonald raised before? Did you playground which
I haven't raised it formally.
spoken about it.
I've spoken about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're correct. Yep.
I just have concerns about this here, with this one here, with the playground. We know the Pee-wees has been around. We know that Flip Out's been around, and all those things in private enterprise, and it's failed. So why should we be jumping in, doing that out there? But not so much that I probably don't mind that much if we do jump in a little bit and try something. But what worries the living daylights out of me is because we've got $45 million worth of 2 projects that we're going to do, and they're going to balloon something very seriously, because I spent the weekend in Albury last weekend, and I saw what happened down there, 2019, talking about plus 50% blowout. Well, now we've got blowouts going to happen here, something severe. So we have to be very careful of where we're going to spend our money. And I don't care where we do. I'm the chair of finance, but I can tell you I'll be watching every dollar where we spend, because we're going to need those money for those major projects, what our local members said we need to come to town.
Councillor Duffy.
Like Councillor Duffy, I just have some concerns in regard to the item. I think the idea in principle is a good idea, but my concerns relate to budgeting. The upcoming budget, I know that we've had to apply for an increase in the IPART increase from the what was designated as a 0.7%, and we're trying to get that increased. I'm just wondering how an item like this is going to affect the upcoming budget, and will that possibly impact on rates for people? Because I imagine something on this scale, and I know there's not a great deal of details. Like I said, it's in principle, I think the idea has some merit. But as Councillor Duffy said, there's been 2 similar type of projects over the last few years which have not been successful, and I wonder why they weren't, and I imagine that it's because they weren't cost effective. We look at what's already been provided. I mean, it may not be the ideal locations for mums and bubs, but Robin Hood, we've also got the Yafa Hotel. In the future, I believe that the ex-services club out at Wentworth Golf Club, which I will declare a conflict of interest here because I am a member of that club, also of the golf club and president of the soccer club. But I know in their plans, they're planning quite a large playground out there. Yeah, it may have been indoor as well, so I'm not exactly sure, but I think it is. I just have some concerns how this is going to impact on our budget, bearing in mind that we aren't aware of what that increase is going to be. As far as Orange City's Council is concerned, we haven't been advised that. So I think we have to be very cautious about how far we're going to progress this. Not saying it's not a good idea. I think it has some merit, but I'm just concerned about the timing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, Councillor Donnell, please.
Just wanted to address a couple of things. One of the things that came out. All right, feedback from was that families want. This is something that families really want. Families really want. The communication I got from local families in the Central West was that this is a huge void. This is a huge need, that something needs to be done, whether it's council doing it or whether it's private enterprise, but it's a void. Now, in terms of Flip Out, I'm not sure why they didn't work out, but Pee-wee's closed purely for personal reasons. My understanding is that it was actually, I mean, every time I was there, it was busy as all get out. It was a successful business, but there were family private issues going on, so that decision was made. Plus, I think the ex-service club said that they wanted the space. They were going to demolish the building and do something to it, which obviously hasn't happened. But it's not that there wasn't a market for it. Obviously, we've got some great playgrounds around the town. And yes, we've got the OFA, we've got Robin Hood, we'll have Wentworth. But for a town the size of Orange, And given that families are basically the largest demographic in Orange, we need to be catering for them. And it's also, I think about 25% of our domestic tourism is families with kids under 14. This sort of feeds both the local need as well as a tourism need. In terms of the report, it's really just like a basic sort of let's start the ball rolling, do some investigations. Obviously, something of this nature, if council was to do it, is going to cost quite a bit of money. But this is about starting the ball rolling and working out, where can we get funding from, what's available. So I think I really believe this is something we should be doing, and get a few more details.
Can I just clarify the word temporary then? Talking about funding.
Through you, Mr. Chair, having spoken to the Mayor who wrote this motion, his vision was that it would be for winter. So I think we're talking something like, let's call it May, June, July, August, September. So 4 to 5 months is the subject of this resolution. And staff need to go away and look at all options and obviously come back with costings to you in a report.
And I suppose my conversation with the Mayor also, Mr. Plato, is that it was looking at something to maybe what we call a pilot program to see whether the aspects of how this may be achieved through this winter, and taking that evidence on come summer in relation to how this has worked. So again, unpacking this aspect of it and looking at different aspects of it. And so I'd like to turn it over to Councillor Whitton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I think the key words to this is, investigate the possibility of a temporary indoor playground. So all of these questions that the staff are going to go out, and I'm not speaking from an operational point, but they're going to go out and look at all of these things, see what the commercial space is doing, what the non-for-profits are doing, see what's going to happen in the future, and come back and give us that information and tell us that this is what's happening in the community already. We as a council help them, maybe, we'll get involved with them, or promote more, but certainly there is a definite void for activities for young people in Orange. We can't deny that, and certainly both those who live here and those who visit, a lot of friends who visit with children often say to me that the one thing that's really missing in Orange is activities for children to do. Now, and I think we need to support the motion and at least have council bring back a report, let us know what is actually happening out there. I know that some councillors do know what's happening out there. I think it would be great in a report so that we can feed that back to the community for the people who are asking us, need to do more. Well, these are the things that are coming. This is what the commercial space is doing, and this is where council can fit in. Thank you. That's what I believe, Mr.
Thank you. Councillor Tammy Greenhalgh.
I'd like to agree with Melanie and also Jeff. One of the key points, I think, is we do have some great facilities here in town, but they are at licensed premises. Not everyone can afford to go and eat a meal and take their children there. So I think we are excluding some people with the existing facilities that we have. And the key part is investigate. I agree. So, I think we should move the motion to at least investigate what our community is asking us to do.
Councillor David Malato and then Councillor Stephen Peters. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm also speaking in support of the mayoral minute. I think this is definitely worth investigating and the need is there. I think there's potential that we can look, and obviously this is looking at the temporary option, but we need to think about what doesn't the commercial space provide. And as Councillor Greenhalgh just said, talking about licensed premises there, one of the reactions I had when from someone in the community when I said this was on the right, if there was some sort of friendly space part of it as well, which is probably something a playground certainly. So I think there's plenty. The other thing I wanted to note is that the early reporting with the consultation on the communities. I think we're going to obviously have the draft community and going out on exhibition, but I think we've got some evidence there that it's worth having a look.
Thanks, Mallard. And
Just
Councillor,
a clarification.
excuse me, could we have Councillor Peter Stevenson, please? vote?
Only to say that,
Thank
yes,
you.
as a father of young children, it's an obvious lacking. I certainly hear the comments that everything has to be paid for, information, and then can decide on that when we've got the information.
Thank you.
My
Thank you,
final question is,
Councillor Duffy.
when can we expect this report to come back?
Mr. Maunder, I'm looking at you. Fortnight, next meeting, that's 3 weeks away. Next meeting, April the 5th.
Okay, quick motion and we have movers on. Thank you.
Hey, that's unanimous.
Yeah,
Thank
unanimous. Thank you very much. 2.2, Local Government Association, AGLA. Need to record National Federal
We need to move,
Election
Mr. Chairman.
Priorities. We need to record names.
you. Mover, Councillor Duffy.
Councillor
Peterson, seconder.
Deputy
Sorry.
Mayor, just noting
And-
that Councillor Mallard's left the room.
Mallard's left the room.
Mallard and-
Okay.
Councillor Duffy, you have.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. The big question here is always and it's at the LGA conference, is the commitment to return financial assistance grant back to 1% of the funding, and that's something they've been chasing for years and years for our roads and all those type of things there. So I think that's the biggest thing that we need to hammer home to the federal government to get that back. And probably I'm led to believe that I don't think the election's going to be in May. It can be deferred till November from what I can gather, but that may not be either there.
Deputy Mayor, maybe through your colleagues, wanted to know in the point 2C to seek funding commitments for members and candidates, what will we do with that? Is that something that will be put on Orange City Council website, or what actually happens to these commitments or whatever if they're made?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it all comes down to that we support ALGA's advocacy, so they'll prompt us on how to do these things as the campaign goes. They'll give us letters and prompts with our members and pro formers to work to. Okay.
Okay, we will need to record names for and against, please. Thank you.
Favour, unanimous.
Favour,
Yep. Unanimous. Yep.
Okay, 2.3, Central South Wales Show Board meeting, 24th of February.
I'll move the
2020.
recommendation.
Whitten. Second. Councillor
And yep.
Peterson.
Mr Deputy Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to the motion.
Are we going to bring the councillor back in now? Or?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Councillor Mallard to come back in. Councillor Mallard returns. Councillor Mallard, we're debating item 2.3, Central New South Wales JO Board meeting. And we have an amendment from Councillor Evans. Afoot.
Yes, Mr Deputy Mayor, I propose the amendment be to point B, make provision for longer term delivery of a safe, swift link between Sydney and the Central West, including both road and rail upgrades, which is the amendment.
Happy to second that.
Okay.
A question through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, to the CEO, because he would have been at the meeting. What do they regard as central? How far is it to Bathurst only? When they're talking about, I read it last night and I was trying to determine what their reference is at Bathurst.
In this JO now, it's the foot of the mountains at Lithgow to Condo.
To Condo.
Mm.
That's it.
Yeah.
It might be a good idea to reference that in the documentation that goes to the state or federal members.
However, when you talk about a safe, swift link between Sydney and Central New South Wales, I'm sure they're not talking about Condo. I think they would more be talking about parks as perhaps the sort of the centre the end of a rail initiative. That's my personal opinion.
That's still got to go through Orange. That's
Correct, Bathurst Orange, and to Parks where the Special Activation Precinct is would be the vision.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My big concern is probably along some of those, Councillor Evans, is that the fact is that when you talk about our JO, you're not talking about the access from Forbes. They prefer to go down the other way. And with Dubbo, people prefer to go a different way, whereas Bathurst and Orange just want to go straight through the mountains. Be wary of that, and need to be aware of the membership of the JO as well when we're putting up something. So that's why I think we should be a bit more direct in saying, hey, we support a tunnel through the mountains or the old Bells Line of Road. And the previous or the current government, they wiped the Bells Line of Road straight away. I mean, we had years and years of Ian Armstrong, tapping on the shoulder of his own government, saying, "Hey, do something for us, please." And all they did was kick him. So, need to stick to our guns and say, "This is what we want."
Comment to add to that, given 2.2 about putting priorities to candidates, I would think that 1B would be something that should be put to candidates for the upcoming federal election as well.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Speakers?
So any more speakers on that?
We need to put the amendment first.
Happy
Happy to put it.
Put the amendment to the vote.
Okay, amendment to the vote.
There was a seconder, yep. Councillor McDonald. So the amendment goes to the vote and is unanimous. So the amendment comes to the motion, then you vote again on the motion.
Okay, on the motion.
And it's unanimous. Okay.
Motion's done and carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good outcome.
Point 4, the late item, councillors.
Yes, late items, which is in front of you. As hard copies.
The late item, Mr.
I'll second it.
Mayor.
I'm quite happy to second it, but I
Councillor McDonald, second.
We got, sorry,
you want to?
We've got a seconder here, first and seconder. Yeah, Councillor.
I'm not chairing the meeting.
And Councillor McDowell.
I'm quite happy in support of it. I don't disagree with. I don't agree with taking our flag down. I think we should fly a Uranian flag by all means. We should also put one on top of the emblem on top of the museum as well.
Make a clarification.
Yeah.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, Mr. Hodges. I spoke to Mr. Hodges during the week thinking about this, and I asked him, in what legal way could we put a Ukrainian flag outside? No, it's okay. And he told me the only way we could do it was to replace the council flag with the Ukrainian flag. So that's why we've suggested that that's the way we do it.
Clarification on that. I mean, I know that the Opera House.
Yeah, we can do your museum idea, no problem. If that, we could, if the amendment were successful, we could perhaps paint a la NAIDOC week, a Ukrainian flag on the grass bank. Yeah.
Second his amendment.
We've got an amendment to paint a Ukrainian flag on the grassy slope.
Clarification.
And a mover and a seconder.
Before we move that, can I just have a point of clarification? Are you saying that we can't have two flags on the one rope, like council on top and the Ukrainian flag halfway down?
At this point, I declare a lack of knowledge. Mr. Hodges, can you assist, please?
Makes sense. Maybe, to me it does. No, you don't need a pile to have two flags on one rope.
Right, there's some real regulations around that.
Acting Mayor, there are protocols for flying national flags, and so you don't fly a national flag below other flags. So it's matters such as any alternative flag can't be higher than larger than the Australian flag, higher than the Australian flag. So it's quite simple. We often do it with, say, the United Nations flag. We take the council flag down and just run it up. So we'll have always, when you look at it on the western side or the left-hand side, when you're looking at it from the street, Australian flag, state flag, Aboriginal flag, and then the council flag. So that's one we just operationally remove.
Deputy Mayor, can I add one more thought that has come to me, is that the cost, Mr. Maunder, of putting the NAIDOC stencil on the bank is not minor. So councillors probably need to know that before the amendment is considered. Could you give us an approximation? Would it be in the thousands? It would be in the thousands of dollars.
One of my questions.
It would be more expensive than a flag.
Yeah.
A flag would be more hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. Councillor Winton.
Mr Mayor, Mr Deputy Mayor, I'm speaking for the motion. And I think this is a great sign of solidarity on behalf of the city and the community by flying the Ukrainian flag. And my mother-in-law is Ukrainian and was taken by the Nazis in World War II, moved from Ukraine and taken to Berlin. Basically, her family were put to work as slaves to work the market gardens of the concentration camps. And we don't want to see Europe go back to those days. And certainly, if we can do, and it's not a small thing, flying another nation's flag in support of solidarity is a very large step and a thing that we should be doing. I'm fully supportive of it. I appreciate Councillor Duffy's thoughts about also painting it on the gardens there, but I certainly believe that we may need to be in full knowledge of that cost. But certainly flying another nation's flag, very important, because men and women of our own country have died for our flag, and men and women and children are today dying for the Ukrainian flag. So it's a very sad to believe that professional soldiers would kill women and children beyond all thought. So I'm in full support of this, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Deputy Mayor, I'm also in full support of the motion. I think it's a particular issue of great importance. I'm a bit want to ask some of the older, wiser heads in council. I'm thinking that in the future there may be other political things that we don't really want to get involved with. Has this happened before, or is this really a once in a generation event where we'll be asked to do something like this in basically an international political statement?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duffy.
What I'm saying is that on the museum roof, saying is not raise it in front of on our flag here at the chamber. Raise another flag somewhere else. Whether you want to put it at half mast or full flight, that's up to us to make that decision. But to me, I don't think we should be taking our flag down.
We're not taking the Australian flag down, Councillor Duffy.
That's what I'm saying.
The answer.
I believe he's had his say, Mr Chairman.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to.
I could ask Mr Hodges.
Yeah,
Can you recall, Mr Hodges, the incident like this? I don't in my... No, the answer, Councillor Peterson, is no, this is quite unique. And just to clarify, we're proposing to lower replace the council flag with the Ukrainian flag.
Point of clarification, Mr CEO. Do we still have the flagpole on the entrance to Orange?
We do, and a very, very large Australian flag flies off it. Yep. That's on near the car yards up there. Yep, we do. Yes. That would require the purchase of a huge Ukrainian flag at great cost.
Yeah.
And would require the lowering of the Australian flag. Thanks, Mr Greenham. Yes. Sorry, Deputy Chair.
Okay.
Your meeting.
So we're moving.
So you're going to.
Going to put.
Which is council.
Yeah, Councillor Duffy's amendment to painting the green on top of the museum in the council.
Sorry, can I just clarify? Is Councillor Duffy's amendment to do the painting instead of the flag, or as well as?
Instead of is my understanding.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Duffy.
Instead of your amendment, Councillor Duffy, is to do the green roof rather than the flag, instead of the flag.
Well, if you want, you put another flagpole up and run it at half mast.
We don't have another flag pole. Let's call Let's call it instead of.
Yep. Okay. Any other people on that day? Okay. Put that motion forward.
Amendment
forward.
The amendment is put for a vote, please.
Put the vote, please. Okay.
All for. One. Councillor Duffy for. Yep. Against the amendment.
And against.
Councillor Floyd against as well.
Yep.
Thank you. So the amendment is lost. So now the motion needs to be put.
Okay, the motion again needs.
Sorry.
And that is.
Can I just ask a question? Is that right? I'm just curious about just being mindful of people of Russian extraction that live here. We have to be careful not to marginalise them because a lot of them are quite horrified by what's going on too. So if we do something like this, then it needs to be done with some sort of statement acknowledging that as well, because we don't want being treated differently because they have Russian background. Just a comment.
It is actually noted that it takes two to make a war. Sorry. And I think this is the aspects of where we are.
Look, I get that.
Yeah.
And I actually think it is good to support the Ukrainian people. I get what's happening, but my point is that there are Russian people living in Orange who don't support what's happening from their own people back there as well. And I just want to make sure that sort of doing anything that's going to make it more difficult for them, because I think some of them are struggling a bit already.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, just in response to that, perhaps we could say that we're flying it in support of the Ukrainian people, not in criticism of the Russians, but in support of the Ukrainian people. Word it that way.
Not criticising Russian people that live in Orange.
Well,
or even the average people over there. Yeah, just when you're doing something like that, it sometimes can be perceived as taking sides, and I think you just have to be careful with that sort of thing.
Councillor, perhaps the director in charge of communications could draft for tomorrow, as early as possible, something reflecting that. I don't think we have a flag ready for tomorrow, Mr. Hodges, do we? No, so we'll get a statement that reflects that.
Thank you.
Did you put the motion? Yeah, you did.
The motion, we've already done that, No. Haven't put the motion up?
Put the motion.
My bad. Motion up to the flag being flown. Okay, and against this?
No, the motion is as printed.
Yeah. Cool, and carried. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that conversation because it's vital in this time and hour where the world is sitting at this point of time. Presentation of annual audit accounts. We'd like to welcome Chris Harper, who's on Streamline, is that correct, from the Audit Office to present the annual audit accounts. Chris is appearing with us on today via Zoom. Thank you, Chris.
Good evening, Mr. Deputy Mayor, councillors and staff. Hopefully you can all hear me. I'm just going to try and share my screen with a presentation. So just give me 1 second.
Is this?
Is that? Can you see now?
Are we on item 3?
Yep, all good. Thanks, right.
Councillor, sorry, if I could just say, I'm not sure it's on our running sheet here. I'm not sure it's on your agenda. This is a presentation from Council's auditor on last year's accounts. Sorry if that's not on your printed agenda. We do this every year. Is it on the agenda? It is on your agenda. What we do is just... it's not on the LG Hub, apologies. So just to explain, we ask the auditor each year to talk to how we went last year and the audited accounts. And Chris usually would take about 10 minutes to do so. Then we will go into item 3.1. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Just clarify the page, please, because mine's out of sync.
Sorry, what page?
There's no page, it's just a heading.
Thank you.
In the agenda, but it's not numbered, so it's sitting just under 2.3 on the agenda.
Thank you, Chris. Sorry, good to go.
No problem. Thank you. So by way of introduction, my name is Chris Harper, and I'm a Director in Financial Audit at the Audit Office of New South Wales. Thank you for the invitation to present my report on the conduct of the audit for the year ending 30 June 21. We're presenting our audit findings a little later than usual. This is not because of delays in the audit process, but more due to impacts of the council elections, as you know, were held late last year. It was another challenging year where council had to respond to the continuing issues associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. The statutory date for all New South Wales Council's financial statements to be audited remained the 31st of October 2021. I'm pleased to say that council met this timetable. In delivering the mandate for local government, the Audit Office's role is to provide independent assurance on the financial statements and supporting schedules prepared by management and endorsed by council. We report our findings to management, council, and eventually to Parliament. In our 2021 local government sector report to Parliament, we will continue to report on results for the 21 financial year. We expect to table this report in the next couple of months. Key audit findings, which arise from the 2021 audits and themes from our observations, will be incorporated into this report. Just briefly, some areas we focused on in our financial audits for 2021 included the continuing impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, valuation of infrastructure, property, plant and equipment, restricted cash balances, and cyber security. I'll now turn to our reports on the conduct of the audit. This is included in Council's 2021 annual report.
Chris, can I interrupt for a second? Do you want to be in presentation mode there on your slideshow? We're still seeing your front slide.
That's okay. Can you see the next slide when I move to that one?
No, we're just seeing you're not in presentation mode.
It's coming up on my screen. So you can't see the presentation at all? Or?
Front slide.
Okay. Does that change now?
You can see income statement slide. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'll just stick with that screen. So as I said, we'll now turn to the report on the conduct of the audit. We've completed our audit of the Council's general and special purpose financial statements and relevant special schedules. I'm pleased to report that on the 31st of October 21, we issued a clean audit opinion on your Council's financial statements for the year ending 30 June 21. This means the financial statements contain no material misstatements and present fairly. The Office of Local Government's Code sets out what needs to be covered by the report on the conduct of the audit. There are 6 key performance measures which are included in the general purpose financial statements. I'm pleased to say that Orange City Council has met the industry benchmarks for all 6 of these financial performance measures as presented in the financial statements. So firstly, looking at the income statement, the Council's operating result from continuing operations of 38.7 million, including depreciation and amortisation expense of 19.7 million, was just under $7 million higher than the prior year result. The movement is due to an increase in grants and contributions for capital purposes, which was offset by an increase in expenditure from continuing operations. Grants and contributions revenue of 47.5 million increased by just under 9 million, around 23%. This was made up of 32.9 million of special purpose grants and non-developer contributions, 9.9 million of developer contributions, and just under 5 million of financial assistance grants. Rates and undercharges revenue of 48.2 million increased by 2.1 million, or 4.6%. This was due to increased general rates revenue and domestic waste management and water supplier services. So we'll now just look at the first of the 6 financial performance measures I mentioned. Council delivered an operating performance ratio of 5%, which exceeded the industry benchmark of 0. You'll see on this chart, the red line is the OLG benchmark. The decrease in Council's ratio is driven by reduced interest and investment income, 1.4 million, and increased employee benefits and on costs, 3 million. Next ratio is the own source operating revenue ratio. So this really measures the degree to which Council relies on external funding sources, such as operating grants and contributions. Council's ratio of 65.8% exceeded the benchmark of more than 60%. As you can see, the ratios remain stable in recent years. Now just having a brief look at cash and investments. So hopefully the slide you can see here shows the cash position for 21 and 20, including restrictions. Externally restricted cash balances include unexpended loans, grants, developer contributions, water, sewer, and domestic waste management charges. Balances which are internally restricted are due to council policy or decisions for forward plans, including the works programme. And finally, the unrestricted cash balance there is really providing liquidity for day-to-day operations. The unrestricted current ratio really shows council's ability to meet its short-term obligations as they fall due. Benchmark here by OLG is greater than 1.5 times. Again, council exceeded that benchmark with 2.3, a ratio of 2.3, and again, relatively stable compared to the prior year. Cash expense cover ratio, 21.5 months. This one indicates the number of months that council can continue paying for its immediate expenses without additional cash inflows. Again, well exceeded the benchmark here of 3 months and remains pretty consistent with previous years. Next one is debt service cover ratio. So this measures the operating cash which is available to service debt. Council's ratio of 4.7 exceeded the benchmark, of which benchmark by OLG is greater than 2 times. This ratio reduced compared to the prior year, largely due to increased repayments of borrowings. So then the last of those 6 financial performance ratios I mentioned is the rates and annual charges outstanding percentage. This one assesses the impact of uncollected rates and annual charges on council's liquidity and the adequacy of debt recovery efforts. The benchmark by OLG is less than 10% for regional and rural councils. Council met the benchmark for a current reporting period, achieving 8.4%. The percentage has increased slightly over the last couple of years, predominantly due to the impact of COVID-19, affecting the timely recovery of rates and annual charges. So in summary, the council's reported strong and sound financial results, met all 6 of the audited ratios while responding to disruptions from the ongoing pandemic. I'd like to thank council staff for their cooperation with my team in the conduct of our audit. That closes my presentation, but happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the councillors?
Yeah, Chris, I've just got one, mate. Do you guys track, like in real time, where you would be up to at this particular point in time with this year's figures? And if so, how are we tracking at the moment?
Yeah, good question. So our mandate is to audit at 30 June each year. As I said, the outcome of the 2021 audit is later than planned. So we'll be conducting our 2022 audit pretty soon. But to your point, we don't provide kind of live reporting. That's more management's responsibility to provide management accounts and that sort of information to council. So I can't really comment on current performance because we've only audited at 30 June 21.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thanks, mate.
No problem.
And also a question from Councillor Tony Milato. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just one question with regards to the unrestricted funds. Historically, I think it's been around 13 million, but last year it was 13.8 million, and it's down. Or in 2020 it was 13.8 million, and it went down to 9.2 million in 2021, which is a decrease 4.6 mil. Can you provide an explanation as to where that money has gone, or why it has been decreased by such a significant amount, which is probably about 25%?
So in terms of the unrestricted element, that's really the balance after you've taken your total cash and investments balance, stripped out your external restrictions, and then any internal restrictions which council have put in place. The delta is really your unrestricted. I can't comment on specifics around what's driving those movements. I defer that to management, but what I would say is council's always got the ability to reverse internal restrictions. So if there ever was a case where you didn't have enough unrestricted cash, you could always look at those internal restrictions. But just to be clear, we don't see any issues with the current level of unrestricted cash, and that is something we look at as part of the audit process.
Thank you. The question may not have been directed at you then. I'm just curious to know as to why there was such a significant decrease, and if one of the directors could comment.
Just looking at the CFO, would you like to take that on notice and come back to the council, or would you like to have a talk now? Or?
Bearing in mind, just like the investment reports we see monthly, that unrestricted balance can move $5 million a month depending on what has come into the bank and what has gone out. And we try to always keep that unrestricted balance around 9 to 13 for our operational cash flows. So, yeah, it's not a concern. I get what you're saying. It's moved like 33%, but I'd have to actually look into the specifics as to exactly where we were at. But between 9 and 13 is sort of where we target. But I think Councillor Whitten has already pointed out the investment reports. The unrestricted has moved around quite a fair bit in the last 3 months. So, yeah, I think it's a normal part of business, but I can get some details for you on notice.
Yeah, look, I appreciate that it moves around a bit. I guess my curiosity was around the fact that this was a final amount based on 2 end-of-year projections.
It's based on the money we had in the bank effectively at the end of 30 June and
yes,
minus
exactly
the restricted stuff, and that's what we were left with, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miletto. Any other questions before we move on? All good. Thank you, Chris Harbour, for that presentation, and appreciate that. And
Chris?
Thank Chris.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Cool.
Thanks, bye.
Okay, moving right along. Point 3.1, minutes of the ordinary meeting Orange City Council held on the 3rd of March.
Move the minutes, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Minutes. Thank you, Dr. Winton. Thank you, Emily Greenar. Thank you.
Which one are we up to? 4.1?
3.1.
3.1.
Minutes.
Minutes of the previous meetings.
May I ask a question maybe through you, Mr Mayor,
Yes.
just on the previous minutes on page 25, the Dylan Olcott motion. Just wanted to know if we would get a follow-up or if that would come out in due course.
Through Mr. Chair, so our staff are basically trying to figure out and contact the management of Dylan Olcott, go through a process. So once we get something concrete, we'll report back to you. We're trying to match an event if we can with visit, but work is underway.
Cool. For the minutes, 3.1, can we have movers? Seconders?
Yeah, I moved it, Mr. I already
One and two.
Seconders. All against? All four, sorry. All against. Thank you.
Unanimous.
Nobody against.
Unanimous.
Appreciate that. Okay, point 4, 4.1, conduct of funerals at the Orange Botanical Gardens. We'll need to have a mover on that.
I'm happy to move that.
You're happy to move that. And a seconder, thank you, Councillor Stevenson. And now we will, Councillor Tony Miletto speak.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. This matter comes before Council in unfortunate circumstances, and that involves the Reid family. Prior to that issue, really an issue, I guess, as such, but notwithstanding that, there's been some people who have been but people who have word here, but certainly been affected by a decision not to be able to hold a funeral at the Botanical Gardens. My concern with the motion, councillors, is that I've been approached by numerous people who have young children who go to the Botanical Gardens a lot, and there was a couple of people up there even the day that former councillor Taylor had his funeral up there, and they were required to answer questions of their children, asking what it was all about. Sometimes they're tough discussions to have with little kids. In my opinion, and people have approached me, funerals are a an event which are quite private. Quite sure whether the Botanical Gardens is a place to have funerals on a regular basis. There may be occasions, on special occasions, when there could be an exception. I'm not saying that each one has to be dealt with on its merits, but I can't support regular funerals with caskets, Botanical Gardens, based on the feedback which I've received from members of the public who told me that their kids have actually been traumatised in some ways, because parents had then explained to the child that there is a body in there. Children have then asked parents, "Are you going to be in there, mummy?" Don't understand. So maybe it's the location of where we're holding this the funerals, and that it's to open to the public. I'm not sure. So I know that having these conversations with young children, difficult ones at times, and quite challenging. And I've probably had half a dozen phone calls and been approached by numerous people down the street, most of who are against holding any type of funeral, basically because they're a type of thing. But there'll be people here who will have a difference of opinion also. Thank you.
Councillor Miletto, thank you.
So, Deputy Mayor, I'd just like to move an amendment to the motion and then speak to the motion, if that's okay. So I would like...
we need a second, please.
Read the amendment first.
What the motion's going to be first?
Okay, so...
Know what the amendment is first?
1, the council permits funerals, including a presence of coffin, to be conducted at the Orange Botanic Gardens with the lawn area of the native garden display with appropriate signage in place. And then it goes on to point 2. I would like the motion to read that council permit funerals, including the presence of a coffin, to be conducted at the Orange Botanic Gardens with the lawn area of the native garden display or in the Clover Hill Function Centre with appropriate signage in place.
Yes, I'll second that amendment.
Thank you. There's a seconder, and we... No.
So we've got a seconder for the amendment.
A seconder for the amendment
and
is...
the debate continues.
And the debate now for Councillor Duffy.
Foreshadowing an amendment.
That amendment is that we defer the matter, further report. We'll be making decisions on the run here with this. I totally agree with what Leto's saying. You know, notice when you look at Albury's Botanical Garden is on a regular basis down there. To come, ours is going to be packed as well. I think we need to address the issues of how often we have them there. Do we have coffins there, or do we have any? I don't have any problem with Councillor Taylor's situation. One little situation, like Jane Warren's getting a safe funeral. There's Rod Marsh. Service where he probably proposed to wish it. I think we need to more steadfast rules, and I think the staff can come back with a lot more detailed report of how many services in the day can we have, or are we going to have? How are we going to have these services? I think we just need to defer and have a more in-depth discussion about what's going on.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor
Speak on the motion. The only thing that's certain in this life is death. The funeral service profession is a long-standing one with many traditions and customs, but that doesn't mean that every funeral needs to be the same. A church minister, dark suits isn't necessarily what people want for a farewell these days. Instead, you may be after something more unique to better pay tribute to your special person's passion in life. As a parent that has had to facilitate a funeral for a teenager, I fully support this motion. I do, however, want to recognise the concerns from the public that this can be confronting for some people. On the flip side, a funeral for young children, that may be their first, can also be confronting. So to be given a choice to host it in a more relaxed and informal place can also be important. After speaking to the 2 local funeral homes, I believe that between the 2 of them, they would not be asked to host funerals at the Orange Botanic Gardens more than half a dozen times a year. If done correctly with the appropriate signage, as our Deputy Mayor has requested, I feel that we can reach a happy medium in our community, providing a choice for all. You do have a choice not to enter the gardens at the time of the service, should you not wish to expose yourself or your children to the sight of a casket. I do, however, feel that your child has just as much a chance of seeing a casket outside a church when a service is underway. So I ask you as a parent, do you make a conscious decision to avoid that street? Loss of life is a very real thing and should be considered from both parties' points of view in this case. Thanks, everyone.
Peter Stevenson, Deputy Mayor, I either foreshadow an amendment or after discussion with staff, would we be able to put an amendment to limit the days, perhaps maybe only a couple of days a week, where these funerals would be possible, so that people could avoid that? Or is that sort of minutiae level that isn't really for councillors, it's more for staff to decide? And if it's a case of getting some more information and come back to us, I'd be happy for that as well.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's perfectly acceptable. That point 4, for example, could say that funerals be limited to 2 days a week. Otherwise, I'm not clear how we would get to the detail, other than perhaps to hold a councillor briefing and go through it in fine detail.
Councillor Whitten.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm speaking for the amendment. And look, I believe that the Botanic Gardens is a community asset there for the community, and certainly death is can be tragic in some circumstances. Definitely sad for all the loved ones and friends, but it is part of life. Generally, a funeral is looked upon as a celebration of somebody's life, and I suppose the question mid-speaking for the amendment would be to the staff, you have weddings. I know the answer to that. We do. We have weddings at the Botanical Gardens. So there is no reason why we couldn't have funerals at the Botanical Gardens if they are managed properly. There's signage, and certainly I don't believe that we're going to be flooded by people wanting to have services at the Botanical Gardens. Certainly not in the middle of an orange winter, unless it's indoors, as the amendment says. So I'm in support of it, and I hear what Councillor Duffy said, and I can hear Councillor Taylor would have jumped up straight away and said, "Point of order, Councillor Duffy. I am nobody special. I can have my service there, so can everybody in the community," because he didn't believe he was anybody special.
Thank you, Councillor Whitten. Councillor McDonald, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry.
Where we stand and.
Yeah, it was just that my views. My apologies, Councillor Duffy, but my views.
I'm sorry. I thought that at the beginning of the whole this term we agreed that we would just sit and talk. That was my understanding. As someone who, within the last 10 days, has attended the funeral of a close family friend, close family member, I can say that it would have been much nicer to have been able to farewell outside in an environment such as the Botanic Gardens. Obviously, I echo everything that Councillor Greenhalgh said incredibly eloquently. Death is a part of life, and as long as we're communicating when these funerals are on, we're giving the community an opportunity to avoid the area, if they so wish. I think that this is something that we really should allow. I will just note also that in the director's comment, it refers to suggesting that services are permitted via a booking subject to availability. So there seems to be an avenue in there to limit, if needs be, how many we have.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Duffy, please.
Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor. I go back to the rules. What rules are governing what's going to happen up there? The late Bill Coyte went to a funeral once and he said that was there for 3.5 hours. When would he go near one? What are the rules as regards to what's going to happen up there if we do go ahead with one? Our coffin's going to be allowed. How service has got an issue. A lot of people visit Botanical Gardens. They're visitors. Against the theory, but I just want to know what the rules are going to be. I say, oh, willy-nilly, yeah, you can go. staff make them up along with what they think. I think we need to be more precise about what we do. That's why I've asked for shadow motion for deferral.
Thank you. Is anybody else? Because I'd like to speak on the motion to anybody else.
Question for you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, yes.
It says here that point 2, and then we now have an amendment, but the costings are going to go on exhibition. Is the whole motion going to go on exhibition?
Council will put the higher fee, because we have to put all fees and charges on exhibition, and it will be called higher fees for the conduct of funeral services at the Botanical Gardens. Okay, we won't be putting up
the whole motion.
At this stage, the whole motion. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct. Okay. In terms of the detail, Mr. Mayor, I direct councillors to your motion, which might give Councillor Duffy some guidance, has been asked to again permit full funerals. I think that tells you it would permit a full funeral with a casket. And in the case of, full priests and, a long service, from a long service to a short service. I think that gives some indication of the detail. We don't have the detail, as Councillor Peterson started to discuss, in terms of days of the week or times or number of funerals per day.
A point of clarification, Mr. CEO, maybe a foreshadowed motion. This is obviously it's a very sensitive issue to councillors, be a sensitive issue to the public as a whole. I'm just wondering whether the whole thing should go on exhibition. The community have a say in what they believe rather than 12 councillors making that decision. I'd be more comfortable with that because, like I said, I've had numerous people approach me, but I certainly acknowledge what Councillor Greenhalgh is saying and other councillors are saying. I believe that it should be a decision made by the community, or at least provide feedback as to what they want or how they see the item, and let it be a community decision, not made by 12 councillors here tonight. Because, as Councillor Duffy said, there isn't enough information for me to be comfortable with making a fully informed decision here tonight.
Mr. Chair, to answer the question, although strictly speaking we would put the fees and charges, I'm a strong believer that council can do, as much. If you want to do something, you can do something. So we could put a full proposal up with the fee and charge, and ask for public comment. I'm sure we could.
I'm happy to second that, Mr. CEO.
I've got a director approaching me, so I'm a bit
happy to accept that as part of my amendment.
Yes, we're good to go if we want to do that. Oh,
can we be told what the amendment is now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd just like to, because it's my motion, so if you don't mind me, just allow me.
And I'll clarify where we're up to.
Oh yeah, by the sounds of it. Within the amendment, it is emotional. I do believe it's emotional.
It's not it's not a motion. It's if my amended motion was to go ahead, council.
Emotional.
Emotional.
Yeah, I'll explain the foreshadowing if I can in a second. Yeah.
And
my apologies, Deputy Mayor.
It's all right. I've been a minister for a long time, and I've had the privilege of amazing celebrations of lives in many forms and environments, and it's every time it is different. Whenever a family contacts me, and I did one only 3 weeks ago, it's about that loved one, it's about that family celebrating and farewelling a loved one. It's that aspect of it. And being a minister for many, many years, I've noticed the move away from church scene, and I do agree to Mr. Whitten. I've actually done more weddings and funerals and in garden parks that are protected, that are signed right across Central West and right across Australia. And so when putting this up, I really do respect your wonderful decisions. And I said to the Mayor today, this is about us coming together, unpacking it, repacking it, unpacking it until we come to a point that reflects what our community desires. And so I agree to everybody. It's my emotion. That's fine, but it's something we need to put on the table. And so on that point there, it is all of these things. But I think the motion says that we will signage. We will definitely put things in place, and then we'll have aspects of where the funerals have. But I do agree that we should move that point back into and discussion with the wider community and seeing their view on it. So on that point.
Councillors, my suggestion, and I look at those who've foreshadowed or amended, if we took the Mayor's original motion, Councillor Greenhalgh and the Deputy Mayor agreed to take Councillor Greenhalgh your Clover Hill point and bring that into the motion, which he does. If you effectively, you're taking Councillor Duffy's deferral by exhibiting, if you'll agree to take that, and you'll agree to take Councillor Peterson's request for some more detail around number of days, and you'll take the exhibition into your original motion, and everyone's happy with that, then you would 28-day exhibition of the proposal and fees. Staff will kind of work a good proposal up. If everyone's in agreement, that would be the motion which you would put.
Will you read it to us?
I could if you wished me to.
I'm going to vote on something I don't know what I'm voting on.
You've done it before.
Because you've got the writing down there.
I haven't written anything. Okay.
My
To paraphrase, it would be, the motion would be 1 as printed. 2 would be, as Councillor Greenhalgh said, pretty much which would be 1, but within the Clover Hill Function Centre as well. Correct?
Yep.
3 would be to limit the number of days and perhaps funerals per day, and we'll get to some detail on that. And 4 would be an amended number 2 as printed, which would say that council place on public exhibition for the information of the community for a period of 28 days, the proposal and a higher fee for the conduct of funerals, $300.
All agreed?
And I suppose the only other point would be that it has to be conducted by a registered funeral director.
We'll subsume that into the detail part.
I think that is definitely.
Yeah. Okay. We'll might do a little whip round before we exhibit. Yeah. So that would be the motion.
Mr. Maunder is waving.
Yes. Would you think, councillors? Thanks, Mr. Maunder. That's a critical sort of thing. Would one a day be offensive? That's 7 a week? Or
depends on whether we're limiting days of the week that it can be done.
Would 1 a day? Are we thinking 1 a day would be too much? Would you say 5 a week would be better? On weekdays only, I would think.
Yes.
Might be acceptable. No weekends. A lot of people go through the gardens. 5 limited to only on weekdays. 1 funeral a day.
Because there has to be, like I acknowledge the concerns of the public, so I think there has to be some mutuality there.
Yeah, okay, so at the moment
and this is not to say that you're going to end up with 5 a week every week. No.
So you've got limited to weekdays only, 1 funeral a day, $100 sufficient. That as a comparable figure from another, Clover Hill would be, it'd be $300 for the lawn, some $100 for Clover Hill or whatever.
I'll make a suggestion of 4 days a week. So if there's somebody who doesn't want to go on the weekends when it's quiet, go on Monday or something along those lines.
I think we're saying weekdays only.
5 weekdays potentially.
Yes, at the moment, I think that's our base case. Base case, I think, at the moment is weekdays only, 5 days a week, 1 funeral a day. We go with that?
Councillor David Mellor.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I think the one a day makes good sense, presumably if signage is going to indicate time frame expected for a few, and if people see that, decide to go away, come back later on, there's not a risk that there would be another one happening. So I think that works well for me.
That's the proposal to be exhibited.
Okay.
28 days.
28 days.
Yep.
That's everything.
All of that.
Put that motion forward. What have we got?
Happy to move the motion.
Move the motion. Thank you.
Second it.
Unpronounced. And fours and against. Fours.
Councillor Floyd's up. Unanimous.
Yep. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Appreciate your input on that.
Good. Well
Thank
done, councillors. Well done, sir.
Okay, moving on to 5.1, Statement of Investment. Okay.
Chairman, I've got some questions, if I may.
And some questions from...
through you to the CEO, to the Financial Controller.
CFO.
The CFO is aware of these questions because I kindly put them to him, but I thought I'd just raise them for transparency. Page 41, fund is dropped. Page 42, unrestricted funds is dropped again by about 6 million. And sorry, page 42, we've got unrestricted funds. I'm sorry, 48.
Councillor Wynne, can I interrupt for a second, please? You're in this item 5.2. Your questions. So we need
to go to 5.3.
We need to cover 5.1 first.
5.1 first. Sorry.
Both of them at the same time.
Sorry. So we need to deal with item 5.1 first.
Well, I moved it.
Okay. So stay there, CFO. He'll come back to you.
I know what he'd call you.
So item 5.1.
Okay. So we've got to move in a second. And, okay, all for, against, what have we got?
Item 5.1 is
5.1,
unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Item 5.2.
Okay, 5.2, Statement of Investment,
Move it.
January 2000. Move it by Dave Mallard and seconder. Mr. Kevin Duffy. Thank you, councillors.
My questions are now, I've got some in 5.2 as well.
Cool.
CFO, thanks.
Thank you.
5.2, I'm getting used to driving my machine, right?
You're on page 42.
Are you in IT?
41.
General fund has dropped 6 million. Unrestricted funds dropped. He has explained it to me, but I'll let him explain it.
Yeah, so again, linking back to my earlier answer, obviously month to month these things move around quite wildly depending on what bills are due, what payments we've got to make, what grants come in, what rates come in. So you'll see while we've gone down from December to January, I dare say General Fund paid out a fair portion of bills in January because everyone was on leave for a couple of weeks in the first half. So I dare say there was a bit of catch up there. I'd have to take it on notice to give you the exact detail. Likewise, unrestricted funds, they're used to pay those supplies in the main, and you'll see it goes back up again in February in item 5.3. I know we're not there yet, as the rate came in because they were due the 28th of February. So without I can get into the detail for you, take it on notice and get some more detail. But and again, they're just, you have the privilege of having 3 investment reports back to back because of the late elections and the like. So normally they come just one at a time, but you can see that while they swing, they virtually end up in February back where they were in December. So
I appreciate that. It might be future if there's any big movements like that, just put it. Yep. It was a good bet on Saturday or something like that.
Okay, motion.
Condone gambling.
Movers. Against movers. What have we got for
Peterson, yep.
2, all. Oh, so we've got moving against.
We're up to 3.
Moving, Alex.
Yeah, mover. Yeah. Movers. And okay.
Thank you.
Carried.
There's a recommendation.
So Whitten, 5.3, mover.
Yeah. That 5.4.
You're on 5.3 now. We've got a mover
now.
and a seconder.
Okay, moving a second for 5.3.
Move it.
Whitten was moving and I was seconding.
Yep, Councillor and
No questions.
thank you. Any questions on that? Okay, can we have a mover? Sorry.
Put to motion.
All approved. All approved.
Unanimous.
All done. Rightio, that's February 5.4. Strategic policy.
I'll move the recommendation.
Second, Councillor Mallers.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I?
Bernard and Councillor Howe. Seconder, any questions? I will go to Councillor Duffy first, please. Sorry.
Speaking against the motion, 5.4.
Speaking against it? Okay, cool.
Councillors. I believe 7 o'clock is a reasonable time. We come here, we walk in here at 10 to 7 or wherever the case may be. We have a hot topic, a planning matter on a hot topic, or even a funeral notice could be here. This room could be full. To me, it looks very tacky walking in here and seeing everyone sitting down, filling their faces up while there's an audience here trying to get ready to address very important issues that they see here. I think it's very, very, very tacky. And the other question is, you look at, is that it's not good for the moulding of a council together. As soon as the meeting's over, we're out the door and gone, run away. All properly with not everyone will be out the door. I do believe, as I said, most of the times I won't get here to 10 to 7 anyway, so it's to me it just doesn't fit. It's worked previously for the last 10 or 15 years. I don't see any reason why we should be changing.
Can I speak to that, please,
yes,
Mr. Deputy Mayor? Look, as a new councillor, obviously, it's been noted tonight by our state member that we have a lot more diversity in this council. There's been a real push recently to try and include more people from different backgrounds. I believe having it's only half an hour, but it makes a big difference to the time of evening I can get my son home and get him to bed. It's 2022 and we're all about being more inclusive and encouraging more people to try and get involved in local government. Perhaps there's a way of having the meals, I don't know, closing off a room so that they're not offended by people eating. I think we voted on this as a council. It's been put out. It passed as being a 6:30 starting time. That's all that needs to be said.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I speak against the motion. Both our councillors have raised valid points. I guess from a personal point of view, and it might be selfish being a minority as a middle-aged male here, I might argue I'm a bit older than that, but anyway. Thank you. But I'm not quite sure what diversity's got to do with anything here. We all represent the community. But not everybody has the capacity to finish work at 5:30. I know that there are days when myself and there are some other councillors work up to 6:30. And I think as a human being that the council, there's expectation from the public that when we turn up here that we're fresh and ready to go. If I'm finishing work at 6:30 or whatever, I need time to charge my batteries up and have a break before I come in and apply myself to making important decisions on behalf of the community. People would expect us to be fresh and ready to go. There are times when I can do that, but there are other times when I'm restricted in able to be doing that. But I certainly take my obligation serious as a councillor. Councillor Duffy said it's worked okay for 10, 15 years. I wasn't around for that long, but I see merit in not changing it.
Councillor Peter Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to speak in support of what Councillor McDonald has said. I think it's worth noting that if you do need to, if you are someone with, say, care needs to go into the evening or young children, we have made changes. Care needs to come back. We can have a kid being babysat right now. So it's not asking for, some changes have been made by people who will find these evening meetings difficult. The half an hour change will help us in terms of making it a gelling of the council or whatever. That probably doesn't have much to do, I think, with the finishing or starting time. That's a different issue that we can address differently.
Thank you. Councillor Mallard, please.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm speaking in support of the motion, and the point Councillor Peterson made at the end was one of the things I was going to say. I mean, this is a half-hour adjustment. If concerns are around whether we're eating or after the meeting, for mine, I wouldn't want to be wrapping up a meeting at 10 o'clock at night and, as well. So the other point I want to make, and I made it when we first considered this before it went out, though, is just about the 12 of us. The operation of the council, as staff are here for as long as we are hanging around afterwards, then staff around to lock things up as well. I think it's a reasonable adjustment. Every council does things slightly differently, but I think it accommodates things better. It lets people get home to their families early. I really think it's a pretty straightforward change, and I feel.
This is just a question. It's actually to do with the next bit about the Zoom, the remote meeting attendance. I just note on that, so that's still on page 55. And the amendment in April last year to allow remote meeting attendance until the 31st of December 2021. So, wondering about making that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I might ask Ms. Davis if you wouldn't mind answering this question. I've forgotten what the answer is. I just don't think we printed the. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The actual code of meeting practice is being put to you as councillors prior to the 30th of June, and those changes will be included in that. Advice from the Office of Local Government and the new code of meeting practice will be put to you and included. Those changes will be included in our code going forward.
That was only up to the end of last year, though.
That's
so
right. There is
permanent?
The copy that you have there as part of your paper doesn't have the attachment because I thought there was so much of it already there. You didn't need the attachment, which covers off on the Zoom meetings and councillors being able to attend by Zoom.
All right. Wondered. Thank you.
Hey,
Chairman,
Winton.
I'll speak in support of the motion, but I do recognise every speaker because there was, during my life in council here, there was a rule that if it wasn't unanimous, it changed, right? Because we made the rule because of that work commitments, but there are different commitments now. And see an issue changing it to half an hour earlier. But that's for my personal position. But I do recognise the fact that other people have got other commitments. May prohibit them from making it to council on time. And I might make a point that even when we did eat afterwards, staff didn't like the food anyway.
True. Councillor Floyd, did you have your hand up?
Sorry.
No, Mr. CEO, I didn't, but I will actually just very quickly comment that initially I was actually against this proposal, but I've actually, after thinking about this and thinking about the different times that people, would like to start, what times we would finish, how that balances with my personal experiences as well, being up at 5:30 in the morning to be at work at 6, getting into that later part of the night, especially through winter, for me is probably not advisable. So I'm actually for this proposal at the moment. And I think it's a case of let's just run with it, see how it goes. And I'm sure that down the track, we may be able to revisit this again, I'm sure, and make some adjustments as things change. So I think that's what we're all about as a council, is being adaptable. And I think we should start to show that, maybe make a change. And if it's not working, change it back. I can't see a problem with doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Floyd. Okay.
So ask for a point of clarification then. Spoken about diversity and what that means to some people and how other people interpret. When we all put our hands up to run for council, I mean, my understanding is that it was going to be 7 o'clock starts, although we're in a position where we have the flexibility to change. I'm not quite sure what some people are trying to say about that. So, look, I'm happy to consider all people's opinion. But when we ran for council, we all were under the understanding that the meetings would be at 7 o'clock.
And I think that's a good opinion. And I think everybody's got some amazing opinions here. Councillor Jack Evans, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Look, I'll speak for it, and I recognise what Councillor Miletto said. When we stood, it was 7 o'clock, and that was my assumption, and I did support this motion when we first put it up. I'll admit, a bit unsure. I don't know how this is going to work with my work week, but I made it work, and I haven't had any issues with it so far. So, like Councillor Floyd has said, I think we get in there, give it a go, and if we need to revisit it down the track, then that's what needs to be done.
Okay, so anybody else thinks, and we will put that for and against there, please. We have and against, please. And
Councillor Duffy.
Councillor Ladder and Councillor Duffy are against. Thank you, carried there. Moving on, 5.5, local government, New South Wales Destination Visitors Economy Conference requests a civic theatre fee reduction.
Happy to move the motion.
I'll second it. I just want to have just got a question arising out of it. I think it's fantastic this is coming to Orange, but I just wanted to double check. Does this mean that we need to reschedule the council meeting from the Tuesday the 17th of May until later in the week after the event?
Yes, we can do that. It depends how many people would like to attend that function on the Tuesday.
I think the mayor was speaking at it.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Well, it's as we're showing.
Yeah, so we can put that to council to change that that meeting date, like we have done previously when people have had to attend other functions and events that have taken a significant number of councillors.
As well, if that's okay.
Thank you.
I'm just curious. So it says there's a loss of $4,080 in revenue, which is offset by significant revenue generated by hosting the conference. I get that there's benefit to the community in hosting the conference. How is that recouped for council though?
So it's not. So when we actually went for the bid to actually host the conference here with the three councils, and we won that bid. Part of that bid was about how we would support the conference by providing venues or assisting with the high fees of venues. So it will be a loss of $4,000, but we believe that would be offset by the amount of revenue generated by conference delegates coming to Orange, spending money in Orange, and also us supporting local businesses in the hosting of that conference.
Significant revenue generated is to the community, not to the council.
Correct, yes.
So it's a loss. Okay, that's fine.
So direct loss to council.
Yeah, thank you.
The comment too, we wouldn't have that income if we weren't having the conference anyway, so we're really not losing anything.
Unless something else was on at the time.
That's a question. How much discount do we ever get out of local government New South Wales? Give us a discount, do they? Remember, in a few pages' time, we're going to be knocking back 2 donations that are going to bring 400 people to town. Only bringing 200.
You voted for the president.
I mean, I'm going to support it. Don't worry about that. But
Yeah, we'll take that on notice. Thank you,
I just don't like the
Councillor
way they
Duffy.
play the game.
Okay. I think for and against, is that right? Jeff's for. Nil against, all unanimous. Thank you very much. I think it's going to be a benefit for that, so that's good. 5.6, Central West Council Environment, West Ways Alliance.
I'll move that.
Yep, thank you, David.
I'm happy to second that.
And Councillor Donnell, any speakers on that motion? Speakers, okay. For and against, please. All for, nil against, carried. 5.7, as we noted through correspondence, that's one will be pulled, and they will provide us with more information down the track.
Could I just, sorry, Chair, could I just get a clarification? Mr. Hodges, do you need a resolution for this to be pulled? Ms. Davis? I think we do need a resolution.
Yeah, I'll move that way.
So we're going to move and a seconder.
Move and a second.
Thank you. And thank you, Chair. I just remembered that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. We've got a
vote to pull it.
Vote to pull 5.7 development application.
At the
Beasley
request
Street and all four. Wonderful. And
just noting that was at the request of the applicant.
Carry.
Thank you.
Good point. Thank you. Good pickup. 5.8, appointment of joint regional planning.
Yeah, I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
There, Mr. Winton, thank you very much.
I would like to ask a question once I get a seconder.
I'll second
A
it.
seconder, thank you, Councillor.
My question is, for you to the CEO, do we need to go to for interest for the position? Although we've got Alan Ranicky already there, I know it's a new term. We just appoint Alan, or do we need for transparency to go to the market?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, it's okay, Mr. Hodges, I got this one. I think the requirement of the panels from the Minister are that we do go out to the public exhibition. Correct? Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, fours and against, please. Councillor Duffy, sorry. Thank you very much. Carried. Thank you very much. 5.9, request for financial assistance, event sponsorships, round 3 and 4, /1st January 2022 to
Happy to move it, Mr. Deputy.
30th of June 2022. And we'll need a mover. Thank you, Councillor.
We note
and Tammy, thank you very much.
And we note the declaration of Councillor Evans.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we note the earlier declaration of Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Sorry, Councillor Duffy. About the recommendations here. I'm not happy with the $5,000 towards. What about the issue? Done a very good job for Housing Plus. I think thanks, Councillor Duffy.
Point, sorry, Councillor. I'd like to declare a pecuniary
okay.
As, it owns a building where housing.
Just note that
we just
Uncle Whitten is leaving the chamber in relation to
minute that
this one, and we'll move on to Councillor Peter Stevenson. Thank you, Councillor.
I had a question. The amount requested is $5,500. The category is between $1,000 and $5,000. Is it an issue if they're requesting more money than the category allows?
It's not actually an issue. They can request a certain amount of money, but council can make a decision to reduce the amount of money, as part of the grant application decision-making process.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Stevens?
Enough.
Councillor David.
Actually, looking at this, I'm wondering if there's an error in because back on page 204 it says the flagship event fund, which is what the Housing Plus application is under. The funding range is 1,000 to 10 fit, and then later on it says 1 to 5.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Malato.
Just probably an opinion from the CEO. See that one of the first applications which was rejected was the Wangarang Charity Golf Day, and it was due to lack of information, or the application was a bit light on detail, so it wasn't considered. Anybody who knows anything about Wangarang would appreciate the excellent work that they do there. Whilst I understand that it may not totally fit the criteria, I'm just wondering, there's a couple like that, a couple of applications where it says that there isn't enough information. I'm just wondering whether council go back to these people and say, look, I understand what you're trying to achieve within the community, appreciate the great work that you do. Maybe you should include this in your application rather than just knocking it back.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first reason those 3 applications were recommended not to approve was because under policy, staff cannot actually approve the funding of any grant monies, and we were actually in caretaker mode. So that last round which we received, that assessment of that round, actually took place as we were in caretaker. And the events that were held, 2 of them before the new council was elected, and then having a new council and the first council meeting. So that's the rationale. However, council can make a decision if you choose to want to approve that funding and actually fund that retrospectively, but staff can't do that, and that would be a change to our current policy. The second item is that event has happened before, and the criteria for this particular funding program is quite strict in regards to what is that economic benefit that's coming into the city, and particularly the generation of income through visitors and also nights stayed by bringing visitors into town. In directly answering the question, yes, we do. We do go back to applicants who apply, and we try to give them some guidance and also try to guide them to other grant funds, which might be more appropriate, like the Small Donations Fund. This is quite a strict criteria, and particularly for events that have happened before, because they have to show growth in their event and how they're going to actually bring more people in and how more stays could be achieved.
Thank you. And sorry, Councillor. Just in relation to that, I understand that and understand the process. I did read, and I wasn't sure whether it's in this item or item 5.10, request for financial assistance. Council made a decision where there was leftover monies which they allocated without actually applicant providing any information. One or two I saw there.
I need to take that on notice, just to check the fund, but it wouldn't have been this particular program that we're talking about in this item. It may be the Small Donations Fund, but I'll take that on notice if I can, Councillor Melito.
Mr. Chairman,
Councillor Lovey.
A bit earlier on there, we spoke about the 250 people that local government New South Wales were going to bring in, sucking off councils, and where they get their money from, does it? Yeah, here we are. We're going to give $5,000 to Housing Plus, who's going to bring no one to town. There's we got $4,000 and $1,000 to 2 organisations together.
Can I please speak? Item. Just.
You want to speak?
I want to speak for.
Yeah, speak on
the motion.
Cool. Thank you.
Just in response particularly to Councillor Duffy's concerns about the Housing Plus event. Sort of from my perspective, this is something that the orchard is something that council has supported for quite some time. It would seem, I think it would seem a bit strange if we suddenly said, no, we're not going to support you. I was wondering, is there a figure that you think is more?
I'm not answering the question. You're doing the debate. If it was me, I wouldn't be giving them any because we've got issues of our own to deal with. We're not here to fund the state government.
Okay.
Or the federal government.
I would have thought that if they were fully funded, they wouldn't need to have fundraisers, but I certainly support the motion.
Any other speakers?
Yeah, I've just got a question. So it says the allocated budget for the sponsored events program is $100,000 for this for the 2021 financial year, which is not this year. $41,938 remains available in this year's budget. So that's the 2021-2022. So is that the typo? Because that's the previous year.
No, so it's 2021-22. So round 3 closed.
So this says 2021, 2020/21. So that's not the current year.
I'll move an amendment, Mr. Chairman. I would like to give $2,000 to the Wangarang. I'd like to give $1,000 to the veterans. The 1250. Leave that one as it is. D, sponsorship for life is yours, and $2,000 for Housing Plus.
Okay, so can I just have a response to my question before we go there? Is that okay?
Yep, please.
So page 203. Which ended on June 30 last year.
Yeah, so
that's what I'm asking. I was curious whether it was done.
So, yes.
Okay, all right, no, that's fine. So if there is some money left over, which probably there will be if this is the last round, does that just go into the same thing for the next financial year, or does? Okay.
Can I clarify? We still have one more round.
There is one more round. Okay.
There's one more round.
So there are 5 rounds. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So there's 4 rounds. So we have one more round to assess. That was round 3. And out of that 4th round, we've got 2 applications that we're recommending for approval. Yep.
I have a seconder for my amendment.
Thank you.
Amendment.
Okay. Can we have a second for the amendment? No second for the amendment. Okay. But yeah, moving on. We'll go back to.
Put them one by one, Mr. Chairman, because I want to vote against one of them, but not all of them.
Okay.
Vote to go. You have to have a mover to go in seriatim.
Yeah.
Is there a mover to go in seriatim?
Yeah.
Is there a second to go in seriatim? There's Councillor Peterson, Chair.
Yeah, that's fine.
Now you have to vote to agree to do them in seriatim.
Point of clarification, Mr. Deputy Mayor. If I've declared an interest in one of them but not all of them, and we go in seriatim, am I permitted to vote on the other items?
Yes.
Yes. Beautiful. So then you need to put that to vote.
Okay.
Put that to vote.
So in a room to negative vote.
Yeah. So we're voting now through the.
What I said.
Yep. All fours. Yep.
So this is to go in seriatim. Yep. So that's 4.
All fours.
Now just
yep.
We just sorry, Chair. Fours. Councillor Witt needs to come back and be told that he can vote on A, B, C, D, but would need to leave the room on E. Councillor Evans is now going to vote on A, B, D and E as we go through.
Cool.
We're going in seriatim.
I need to hear the debate again.
Okay, well, just...
That's why I'm going to vote.
If you bear with us.
Okay, going from A through... Oops, sorry, just lost mine.
Then you would need...
A,
do we need Ms Davis? Sorry, Chair.
Sorry.
We don't do this often. Do we need a mover and seconder to do each one?
Yep.
Yes,
I think so. That's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
So we have mover on item A. Is that correct?
We need who's the mover on A?
I'll
McDonald and
a seconder.
Seconder for A.
Tammy, yep. Okay. Falls and against, please.
Show of hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 8. Yourself.
Yep.
Against. 1, 2, 3 against makes 11. Thank you. It's 183.
So that's carried. So I just get my on the thing. Okay. Point B. Is that right? Okay. So
mover.
Sorry, mover and seconder. We have a seconder on that. Thank you, David.
Seconder.
I'd like to make an amendment, Mr. Chairman, that we give $1,000 to the veterans.
It says does not, so the amendment is to give 1,000.
I'll second that.
I'll let you win that one.
We have a move and a seconder on the amendment.
That was not an amendment because it's.
Motion if this one goes down to
Yeah, it's a foreshadowed. No, it's because he's effectively saying he's going to vote against it, if you know what I mean.
Oh, right, yeah.
So you're not moving an amendment now?
Well, the amendment's just the opposite of the motion.
Yeah.
That's been put forward. Yeah.
Sorry, the amendment was just merely the opposite.
The opposite.
So the councillor is saying if the motion goes down, he's foreshadowing an amendment.
It's either way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay.
At least we can know the answer, but.
So can I just ask a question?
Sorry.
Why would we be happy to not give 4,000 to Wangarang? We are now happy to give 1,000 to the City of Orange veterans.
I'll mention that in my debate.
When both of these events have taken place.
Yep, Councillor Duffy.
As I said before, I mean, touch off our community. $1,000 to veterans, lifetime of paying tax, lifetime of paying rates.
No, but can I just get some clarification?
I'm not answering questions.
But why wouldn't we give it to both, is what I'm saying.
Trade situation. I wanted to move.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But like, I'm confused. I'm confused as to why you didn't move that amendment on the other one.
It was $4,000.
Okay, cool.
Rightio. So
we're all too keen to put your hand up.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Okay.
Congratulate Councillor Peterson.
Vote on the amendment because the amendment.
We need a mover. We have a mover and seconder.
We're moving a seconder there,
Yep.
but we just need to now
to put that motion.
To vote with
doing the amendment.
The amendment.
Oh, sorry. Okay, you want the amendment. You're going to go with the amendment. Okay, no, that's fine. Just fine.
Councillor Whitten, seconded.
Okay. Pause. Chair, we have an amendment which has been which has been moved and seconded by Councillor Whitten. Normally, if debate has finished, you would now put the amendment.
Can I just ask something first? Sorry, I'm just curious so these things have already happened and that breaches the guidelines for them receiving the funding because you can't do it retrospectively. So if we then start approving these, is that an issue because we've now got a...
That's a very good question. You are, however, council. So
So, council policy is that staff cannot actually approve funding under any grant program. So, because we had caretaker mode, when this round was assessed, we didn't have a council to be able to approve the requested funding, and that's the policy. When it comes to council can choose to fund an event retrospectively, noting it's already been held. And that money would then go to the organisation to assist them, but it hasn't been used to help them put the event on. So yes, you can make a decision to fund it retrospectively, but that would be a decision of council.
I'll speak to the amendment, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I think it was covered by Councillor Duffy. Look, I agree. The veterans, they're ex-servicemen. They brought 250 people potentially to town. Question through you to the CEO. Did they hold the event? People come to town?
Director Rob.
Yes, they did hold the event. The actual application for the funding did not have detail, and this is not the first time the event has been held. So under the criteria, particularly if we're funding you and you've had the event previously, you have to demonstrate how you're growing the event. That was not demonstrated in the application. So I can confirm it was held, but I cannot confirm any data on how many people attended, how many night stays, how many people stayed in Orange, or what sort of income was generated from that event.
We have funded them before.
We have?
For clarification, we still can fund it.
Can I just ask if it's okay if you just a point of clarification then? When we spoke about the Wangarang Golf Day, we spoke about the veterans. There are only a limited amount of positions available. So how do you grow an event when there is only a certain amount of tee-off spots?
How could you grow the event? Well, you could look at other events around the event. You could potentially look at how you could extend to get more people to come with partners or families. So we have the criteria around what we're looking for, and this is the challenge with this particular event funding program, because it is a tourism event funding program that is seeking objectives around bringing visitation to Orange.
So, look, I'm happy to support the $1,000. Technically, it's not their fault. We went into caretaker mode. The way things happen, and they missed out on getting funding, and they do hold it regularly. So I'm happy to support the veterans.
And just on a point of notice, I was at that event last week, and there were people from my hometown down in Orange. I couldn't believe it. Mackay. And that's for the Veterans Golf. And Victoria were the only state that actually couldn't get anybody in. But there was a wide range of people and very well supported. On the night, I had the privilege of actually giving out awards. And the only thing there was the numbers were down due to COVID, and they're expecting to jump up around over 200 next year in 2023. So very much a growing capacity of Orange, yes. Thank you, Councillor.
Speaking in support of that motion, the reason why I was happy for them to be voted on individually was I feel it wasn't their fault. There was some sort of, I guess, bureaucratic, they didn't have an opportunity to apply for funding because there was no council to apply to. So I feel sorry they were penalised for that.
Sorry, can I, at the risk of poking my head above the parapet, I'm going to speak against the amendment. As council staff have said, they have strict criteria that they assess these with. And if they haven't demonstrated, haven't met those criteria for the approval of that, then I don't.
They stick to policy.
No, I know, but it has to be logical and has to have some sort of logic to it. And then also the comment of, well, they're veterans and they haven't done anything wrong. We then also need to relate that to Housing Plus's people that they support. I'm trying to apply logic to all each one of these motions, and they haven't met the criteria. And it's not their first rodeo. I think
Okay. Yes, Councillor Tammy.
Can I just like to speak for the motion? I think from a community fundraising point of view, sponsorship is very hard to get, particularly when they've been affected by COVID. And I think being that they are veterans and what they've been through in their life and in this COVID situation that we're just emerging from, I think it's really important that sport is just not about playing sport. It's more about the mental side of things. And I think these veterans probably needed that tournament more than what they needed. They think they needed it for their mental health. So I'm going to support the motion.
Well, the motion says
the amendment. Sorry, I'm going to support the amendment put forward by Councillor Duffy.
I'm just curious how we can have an amendment that's a direct opposite to the actual motion. Isn't that like a point of order or something?
Well, yes, in the end, you're technically correct. We're going that way.
You're just to not like to vote against it, and then you have the same result? Just an idea.
You're technically correct.
And we foreshadow a motion then.
He actually foreshadowed a motion, so we let the amendment approach work. Exactly. Yeah. Just to summarise, now the debate's over. We will put you will put the amendment first, which is to approve $1,000 in sponsorship to the City of Orange Veterans Week of Golf Tournament.
Okay, we put the amendment through, and it's sorry.
The amendment.
Yep.
Is 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and against who?
Yep.
The amendment is 1, therefore the amendment becomes the motion. Then you put the emotion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And still 2 against. 9, 2, Miss Davis. Or point B.
Okay. Point C.
Councillor Evans is not leaving the room, but has declared an interest. You are leaving the room.
Okay.
Thank you, staff. You can go out that door there. Close the main doors.
Okay, moving a second on points. How do you move the recommendation? Mover, thank you, Councillor Duffy. Seconder, please.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Winton. Any conversations on that? Okay, rightio. For and against, please.
That's unanimous.
Unanimous. You. Didn't last very long up there.
Councillor Evans returns to the room.
Okay, is
everyone there? Yep.
No, it's not in this one there.
Yeah.
Okay. Individuals and Orange is have a thank you.
Happy to second.
Second it. Donald and David.
Yeah, we got
second there, and then okay. Any questions on it? It's a good effort. This one. Video fours and against, please. Hands of motion. Fours, none against.
That's
carried.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Winton is leaving the room at this point of time. Thank you. Okay, Housing Plus, white tie, moved by David.
I'll second it.
Tony.
I'd like to speak for this, if I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. There's been a fair bit of discussion regarding this item, and it's important to know that Housing Plus don't only service a DV centre in Orange. They provide a lot of other facilities for people in need, whether it's by way of emergency accommodation, things like that. I think that it's important that we understand that Housing Plus doesn't just rely on government funding. I know when the orchard was being built, the amount of community support, raise money for that was more than significant. It was outstanding the way the community got behind that project because they knew what the need for it was. Still, unfortunately, Orange is in a situation where we still have the highest amount of domestic violence in New South Wales, and it's well above anybody else. I don't even know why we're having this discussion, to be quite honest, but everybody's entitled to have their say. But some of the work that Housing Plus does or continues to do needs to be recognised, and I think that a $5,500 donation or sponsorship for their white tie ball, which I understand was a very good success, is a small price to pay contribution which they continually make to this community. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that same point of view because I know a lot of those staff actually work in domestic violence with Inside Housing Plus and had a long time working arrangement with these wonderful services, especially around the domestic violence, even in Orange itself. So, yeah, very much supported. On that note, we will have a pause and against, please. All fours. Councillor Kevin Duffy is against.
Based on a cost-shifting basis.
Thank you very much. Okay, may we have Mr. Winton, please? Please. Thank you. Just before we go on to 5.10, would like the Councillor Kevin Duffy to speak on Tidy Towns Award. Is that right?
The Tidy Towns Awards. The Chair's asking you to do it now. Then we'll do item 5.10.
Thanks, Councillor.
Then we'll do 5.10 and then we.
Years, and it's a credit to our committee. That committee is headed up by one of our staff managers, or not by one of. It's a local artist. Mr. Deputy Mayor, on behalf of
Thank you, Councillor Duffy, and on behalf of the council and also those who've worked hard behind the scenes to actually be finalists and also win in this. It's especially noting that Ricky RC, I've known him since a little boy. That shows how old I am, but that is really wonderful. And so thank you very much and appreciate the opportunity to do this on behalf of the Mayor, Council Easton Hamley. Thank you very much.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, can I just ask what they were? I couldn't hear anything there, and I'm not too sure what just happened. Sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Floyd, if I may. Councillor Duffy just presented to the Mayor 2021 Sustainable Communities Tidy Town Awards, finalist, population category E, and winner for a Heritage and Culture Award for Indigenous artwork at Lake Canobolas by Ricky RC.
No, that's excellent. Well done.
Thanks, Councillor Floyd.
So we're on
Okay.
item 510.
5.10, request to fund assistance small donation program, round 3.
I've got a
21,
couple of
20.
points of clarification first, and it's on item F. The Lonely Mountain Ultra Incorporated to host. I would tend to think, is there a delay between putting or something it's not approved?
1,500.
Like if you have a car rally somewhere or things like that.
232.
510.
And I don't know where they're going. It's a bit of distance. I think they're doing.
I can answer. That detail wasn't received, Councillor Duffy, in the application, but I can take that on notice and get that information for you. That information wasn't part of the application, wasn't detailed in the application, so I'll have to take that on notice.
Any speakers on the mountain? Where's it go? Okay. Do we have a mover? Are we going to do them one at a time?
Can I ask Mr. Deputy Mayor, how often do we do the donations round? Is this an every month thing? Or happen again?
Quarterly feature of council. There is no reason to do in seriatim that I can see, councillors.
I'm happy to move it.
The motion as printed.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Okay, all four.
Show of hands, please,
Fine. What we're voting on?
for the recommendation as printed. 1, 2 and 3.
I just asked a question then, because number 2 says we need to determine what level of support.
Well, I ask, are we dealing with them?
Thank you. Thank you. So, there is a reason now, Mr. Chair, to do them in seriatim.
Move point 1, Mr. Chair. I mean, if the mover is happy to do point 1, I'll second point 1.
Okay.
Get that out of the way.
Seconded point 1. Yep.
Getting hungry.
Okay.
So, councillors, you are doing these in seriatim, so you will need to vote to do them in seriatim. Sorry. Mover and a second to do them in seriatim. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we got that. Vote. Can you vote that, please? It's unanimous. So now you're doing 1, 2 and 3.
So
I'll move 1.
I'll second it.
Okay, and move.
Show of hands. 1 is not unanimous. Councillor Duffy is voting against. Yep.
Okay.
Now, item 2, council needs to determine the amount to give to.
Have we funded this before? Question through you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
Through Mr. Chair, I don't know the answer. Looking at my director, have we funded Illy Good and Brendan Jones' team Shake, Rattle and Roll before?
They asked for.
They asked for $2,500 in the Mystery Box Rally to raise funds for the council. I don't think we have funded this team before.
Too, when we
I'd like to ask what's in it for us. Like, what benefit is it to our community?
Yeah, I'm not able to answer that, so I'd have to take that on notice. And yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So I can confirm that we have provided small donation grant funding for other people to raise funds for charities such as the Cancer Council before. So this is not an anomaly, hence it would actually fit under the small grants donation program if you chose to approve that. But it is for them to participate so they can raise money for the Cancer Council.
Just a point of clarification, does the money stay with our local Cancer Council? Like, does it come back into our community, or does it just go into a big pot of money that can be used anywhere?
I'd have to take that on notice to clarify. It hasn't been detailed.
Okay.
I'd like to make an amendment that this one be deferred and we get further information to the next meeting.
I'll second that.
Yep, me too.
Just item 2?
Yes.
Yep, item 2, yep. Okay, we've got to move so first and seconder. Okay, agreed amendment. All agreed. Those against, nil. Carried. Okay.
Happy to move recommendation number 3.
Move that one, eh? Yep, cool. Okay, move on the seconder for that one there, please. Yep, thank you, David. Okay, any commentaries and any feedback on it there? All good?
That's what the previous amount was.
Just
Page 236, 500.
Thank you.
Okay, clarification done. Okay, we have a Pause and against, please. Councillor Duffy, are you against?
No, he's for.
All four carried.
Mr. Chair, I just note that the Code of Meeting Practice states that the council meeting will end at 9:30 unless council votes an extension.
Happy to move it. Ended.
Extended. Okay.
Councillor Mileto and Councillor Whitten.
Yeah, all four.
What are we extending it to? 12?
I only got closed business after this, so hopefully.
Oh, Councillor Peterson, sorry.
It's probably a good opportunity to say I will leave the meeting and follow on a Zoom link. Carers only work so late. If I'm not home in time, I can't get to bed. I'll follow on the Zoom link. And
Peter Stevenson, please have that.
Voted on.
Yep.
Yep, cool. Rightio. Is that the Shepherd's Centre for... Is that right?
No, we're now on.
Orange Society.
Closed meeting?
Oh, closed meeting.
Yeah, closed meeting.
Cool.
So you just read it.
Okay.
Zoom or...
To close the meeting, the Chief Executive's Officer will advise the Council if any written submissions have been received relating to any items advertised or consideration by closed meetings of Orange City Council in accordance with the Local Government Act 19...
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I've received no such submissions.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? Do we need a resolution?
Oh,
being code of practice.
technically, yes, we do. Noting, of course, that Councillor Peterson can just leave the
I'll
meeting.
give permission for him to leave.
Just leave the meeting, yeah.
You can just leave the meeting, and we'll note that time because he will be going on a phone, so it may be difficult for him. We can cover this administrationally, but it's technically correct, yeah.
Read, boss.
Yeah, you're right.
Just go again.
Keep reading on.
In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993, the Local Government General Regulation 2005, in the opinion of the Chief Executive Officer, the following business is of a kind as referred to the Section 10A 2 of the Act. and should be dealt with in a confidential session of the council meeting closed to press and public.
I'll move again to close, Mr. Chair.
Second, and move. There's Steve. You now. Moved, rightio. Thank you. Carried. The following items, number 7.1 to 7.3, all of the same reason for confidentiality, and thus are being considered in closed. The items are 6.1 sales proposed lot 4.4.
Happy to second it. We can close, yeah?
Yep.
Are we? Sorry,
Oh, wait,
Lee,
we
are
might
we?
be still on the internet. In the internet.
Closed. The door's open. The door's open. We're not enclosed. These reasons are read out so the public knows why we're going into closed. We're in open. Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Keep reading.
6.2, net waste regional household hazardous waste collection 2022. 6.3, proposed acquisition of land, part 4.15, 415 Mitchell Highway, Orange. The reason for confidentiality of all these items is these items are classified confidential under the Provision Act of 10A 2 of the Local Government Act 1993, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public for business relation to C, information that would be disclosed, confer commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposed to conduct business. Okay.
Now we close the doors.